From the East and the West, you've heard others, but now you've tuned into the best. This is a Prime Wave Media production.
What's up, world? It's the one and only Pop DiBiase, the Primetime Capper. I'm feeling good. I'm feeling great. And it is time for the premier sports betting show, the PrimeTime Angles. So here we are. Let's go ahead and jump on into it, man. We got ourselves some pretty great games this weekend, everything like that in the NFL. Sorry about that. But we had some really good games in the NFL this weekend. And up first, let's talk about the Bolts, the Bolt Report, week 13. So pretty much the Chargers win an ugly game. That was affected by bad weather, 6-0 at Pats. So pretty much they went to the Northeast and they went ahead and got the must-needed win. It didn't matter how you won the game. We're not doing – this isn't college where you have to do pageantry points and all that other stuff, but we'll get to that in a minute. But Quentin Johnston, dropped a big ball yesterday, but it was okay because that was taken care of later on in the game by another Charger, good veteran, who was able to get in a great catch there, and that was going to be Erickson. His only catch of the day actually put the Chargers ahead in this game. The Chargers, it's very obvious what the problem is with the Chargers offense right now. Mike Williams is a super mega piece to that group, and Keenan Allen is one of the top 5 wide receivers in the league, but he's really good when he has Mike Williams out there to be the deep threat, and then he can be the guy that is the underneath guy, the guy that busts his zones, the guy that does all the little stuff that helps your team get to where you need to get. But they just didn't have that yesterday. And, the lack of a running game really kills you in weather games like this. And yesterday, Austin Eckler was no good. He had 14 carries on 18 yards, and pretty much that's just – pretty much the writing's on the wall with this guy that he's pretty much cooked. And, Josh Kelly, he didn't get off as well as he's been getting off in some of these games, but he had 6 carries, 16 yards. That's a little bit better, but all in all, that was an awful effort from them as well, too, because, they lost 5 yards on Herbert yesterday as well, too, when he tried to do a quarterback run. And this team it was just a really, really funny game yesterday. They gained 212 yards on passing and 29 yards running, right? And then they got outgained in the total yards, 257 to 241, but they shut out the Patriots. That's just what is kind of befuddling. But the Patriots did run the ball 32 times. Not many penalties in this game either. This game really just moved fast. It was a lot of punts. It was a lot of nothing going on. The Chargers were able to get some field goals in at points of the game, and they were able to win this game. It's that simple. This was an old school 1950, 1960 game. Second quarter, that was probably the best quarter for the Chargers, and you have to give the Patriots their props. They're 2-10, but they made the proper adjustments against one of the better offenses in the NFL and absolutely grounded them. So, you know what? At the end of the day, it was a great effort from the from the Patriots, but it wasn't good enough. But it shows exactly where the Chargers are at this point. This team is not a playoff team. I've said every week, hey, this is one of the better teams in the league. This is the best team with this record. Blah 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 blah. But yesterday showed me that Justin Herbert needs help. He needs a lot of help. And you know what? Keenan Allen is great, but he needs a safety valve tight end. Every good quarterback in the league has a great tight end except for Justin Herbert. Justin Herbert has a guy who's 6'8", that's really just a goal line guy. And then he has 2 other guys that seem to be pretty good, but they just aren't good enough to get on the field. So, it's just a lot of things that they need to balance out as a team moving forward. So, it's a lot of pressure on this Chargers team moving in the next few weeks. Now they're playing against a Broncos team that actually is now a playoff contender, and they are ahead of them in the standings. So this game is their biggest game of the season. This is a can't lose situation. If they do lose to the Broncos next Sunday, they will be out the playoffs pretty much. They won't be out, but they'll technically be really out of the race at this point, because once you get to this point of the season, you have to have at least 7 or 8 wins if you're pushing towards that playoff berth, because these last 5 games are going to be tough on everybody. It doesn't matter who you are. Everybody knows exactly what their team's capable of doing and what their team's not capable of doing. So at this point in the season, the Chargers know that right now they got a sheet out to even think about a playoff situation. And the way the schedule's set up, they're not going to sheet out. So pretty much with that, I will say this. I think yesterday proved to us that the Chargers are a great middling team, and they need to make the proper adjustments to this team, and they'll do it in the offseason. But this team making the playoffs right now, just get that out your head. So with that, we move forward. Let's go ahead and jump into our next topic at hand, and it's going to be this. It's going to be the Lions get out to fast start and then have to hold off the Saints, winning the game 33-28. Now 9-3 on the season. This is the best season that they've had in 30 years. You know, the Detroit Lions are just playing some magnificent football right now. A lot of people are excited about what they're seeing with the Lions moving forward. Lions find themselves as the number 2 team in the NFC right now as well too. They're right behind they're tied, but they're right behind San Francisco. They find themselves in a good position though right now. And you know what? They are very, very much a lock for the playoffs. If you have a playoff bet on the Lions, just go ahead and make sure that it's somewhere, you know, resting nicely, because you're going to make your money back on this one and some. So pretty much they have worked themselves into 9-3, and lightweight, the top of the NFC looks much better than the top of the AFC when it comes to records. Now you have 4 really tough teams at the top right here, with the Cowboys 9-3, 49ers 9-3, Lions 9-3, and then you have a 10-2 Philadelphia team. We'll get into that game in a moment. But you know, you have this really good Lions team that found themselves with a 21-point lead to start the game off. They literally got 21 points within the first 7 minutes of the game. They were that good yesterday to start this game off. And you know, David Montgomery scores a touchdown. Jared Goff gets Laporta in the end zone. Then he gets his main man, Amon-Ra St. Brown. So you know, this group is special. You know what I mean? They're doing special things. They knocked Derek Carr out the game yesterday as well too. You know, we all know the Saints are still in playoff position, and they're still in position to win their division, but things are getting a little difficult now because they are starting to run into the hard portion of their schedule, and they're not really making the adjustments that you need to make to really get this divisional title. Now, the Lions, on the other hand, they're front running right now, okay? Even though you had the Packers get a good win last night, you got a team that is absolutely front running their way to the playoffs right now. They're 5th in points scored right now. They're also 2nd in yards per game. They're 4th in passing yards per game, 4th in rushing yards per game, 6th in time of possession. This team is playing lights out football. Jared Goff is not getting considered enough for the MVP race, but right now 3,288 yards on with 20 touchdowns, 8 interceptions. But one thing is, he's been sacked a bit too much with the 98.1 QBR. So the guy is playing some good football right now, and he's putting this team exactly where they need to be. Also, you have a very good season coming from none other than Amon-Ra St. Brown, making me pay for not picking him and Tyreek Hill up as my 2 first picks in the fantasy draft. I would have set some greatness, man. That's all I can say. I was too focused on trying to get Justin Herbert. But you know what? At the end of the day, you got a guy that's playing great football right now. He's playing up to his absolute potential and some. And he's having probably his best season overall ever. So this is huge for this Lions team moving forward. So we'll see how it goes. We'll see how it shakes out. This team is 33-28. There is a lot of anticipation on what the future can be. So pretty much with that, it is it is what it is, and the Lions are 9-3, moving forward to trying to be one of the NFL elites. But we'll see, because the schedule for them gets a little tough as well too. All right, so we move forward. Let's go ahead and jump into our next, which is going to be the Texans outlast Broncos, and in their 5-game winning streak with a 22-17 win. So this put the Texans in a good spot. The Texans find themselves now in position to still be a threat for the playoffs. They're not technically in the playoffs as of yet, because the thing is, the Colts are being mad annoying right now. The Colts won't go away. They have the same record as the Colts. The Colts have the advantage in the tiebreaker because they beat Houston earlier this year in Indianapolis in a very, very well, actually in Houston in a very, very in a game that was pretty much a blowout. But you know what? CJ Stroud came to life at the end of that game, to where now we're sitting up in here and we're all questioning if CJ Stroud is an MVP candidate this year. We already know he locked in the offensive rookie of the year. That's without a doubt. And you know what? Will Anderson might get the defensive rookie of the year. And then this could be show that the Houston Texans knew exactly what they were doing on draft night. So, when you look at this situation, you have a guy in Nico Collins who had a great game last night. And pretty much this was something that was a little bittersweet, because they lose Tank Dell pretty much for the season. Same exact injury as Tony Pollard, fractured the ankle. Looks like he's got some broken leg. So moving forward, they're going to have to see exactly what they have. But this is grind time for this Houston Texans team. Same thing goes for the Broncos, but the Broncos are a little bit more experienced with their head coach and their quarterback. They've been here before where you have to win these games. But it looks like it's 2 squares for the Texans, but you don't never want to say that these are squares. But, the Jets are struggling, but the game is in New York. Actually in Jersey at MetLife. And then Tennessee is, you don't know what the hell Tennessee is. Tennessee shows up week in and week out. And when they play at home, this team is a lot better. They're not a great road team, but they're a good home team. So that game right there is a 50-50. Then you got Cleveland at home. You got Tennessee at home. So you got Tennessee twice in 3 weeks. And then you finish up the season with Indianapolis in the most important game in CJ Stroud's career, if they still are in the playoff race. Because right now, when you look at the way the stats set up for the playoff situation, you have this team on the outside looking in. You have Houston, who is now the 8th seed, the 8th place team in the conference, but they are tied with the teams above them who are all 7-5. The reason why Houston is out, because common victories, and when you look at conference wins, they have 4-3. The Browns are 5-3, and the Steelers are 5-3. So those games really do count. So with that should be a way for us to really examine exactly what this team is about. Now, when we look at Denver's situation, Denver is the type of team that they're probably not going to make the playoffs, but they're going to be one of the spoilers. You know what I mean? And that's what it looks like to me, is that they'll be one of the spoilers here in the NFL this year, because, after that team started off the season 1-5, they've been incredible. Now they're 5-1 since that point. In their last 5 games of the year, they got the Chargers twice, on the New Year's Eve and on the 10th. So they do have the Chargers at home, and they've beat the Chargers, I think, the last 5 years in a row in Mile High. Then they have the Detroit game. This is going to be tough, but this is going to be a game that they can actually win, because Russell Wilson has always played the Detroit Lions very well. And then, you know what? They got this New England game. That's pretty much a square. And then the end of the season will determine exactly where the Broncos are going. I think they'll still be in the playoff hunt as well, too. This team moved to 6-6, but being 6-6 behind 7-5 is not that bad. All right. So with that, pretty much we'll have more on it tomorrow when we talk about the games on the NFL Bet Exchange. But right now, that's exactly what it is. Texans moving forward. They find themselves in position, but still on the outside looking in. And the Broncos go ahead and get cooled off just a little bit. So with that, we move forward. Let's go ahead and jump into our next, which is going to be the 49ers get their lick back with dominant 42-19 win over the Eagles in Philly. And man, I'm telling you right now, Philly looked absolutely dreadful yesterday, but they've looked dreadful a lot of times, but they always figure it out in the fourth quarter. Yesterday, forget about it. They couldn't figure anything out because the weather was bad. San Francisco was playing on tilt, and pretty much the Eagles were a tired team. Let's just keep it real. The Eagles have had some really close games the last month or so, and they keep going through very physical games. And when you go through physical games, there's going to be that one game where you can't get physical because the other team is just more physical than you. So this is where it goes, and this is how it goes down. And you know what? Brock Purdy and crew, they were ready for this game because last year they got absolutely strapped in the NFC Championship game. So right now, their only focus was beating down the Eagles. The Eagles did a lot of bragging. They did a lot of talking. And you know what? I think the last straw was this, when their coach came out and said, oh, I made clips this week and so we can make it, so we can sit up here and act like we're Michael Jordan and say we took it personal on the which guards. Okay, I hope you took that 42-19 ass whooping personal yesterday as well too. So pretty much with that, when it comes down to it, the Eagles are, to me, as I keep trying to tell y'all, they are front runners. They have a robotic coach. They got a robotic staff. They got really talented players, but at the end of the day, they don't have a real leader. And it showed up yesterday with them getting beat 42-19 because no coach needs to go ahead and get you more motivated when you're the NFC champion, when you're 10-1, when you know exactly what you got to do to win these games. Kirby Smart made it the best ever when he said to his boys before the national championship last year, you know what the hell you're doing. Why do we have to sit up in here and play the game like you don't know what you're supposed to do? Go tackle the next man, make great plays, score touchdowns, win the damn game. It's not that hard. All this extra motivational stuff, these men do not need it. Okay? And that just goes to show you lazy coaching at the end of the day. He's been blessed with a team that's played so great. If it was up to the GM, he would pretty much go ahead and coach up the Eagles since they know better. So pretty much this group, these guys, they are very, very, very focused on the task at hand. The San Francisco 49ers want to win the Lombardi this year. They know that they have a team in place that is more than capable of doing that. And when you really look at it, outside of Kansas City, if Kansas City doesn't make the Super Bowl, the NFC actually does win the world championship this year because they're the better conference this year when you look at the top of the conference. And when you have the top of the conference, that means that they literally have three teams right now that could win the Super Bowl over anybody but the Chiefs that are high ranking in the AFC. And you guys said that the third team's not Detroit. Let's keep it real. Detroit's a victim when we get to the playoffs. I hate to say that, but they are. It's going to be Dallas, Philly, and San Francisco at the end of the day. And Dallas, nobody wants to play Dallas. I think San Francisco is okay with playing Dallas, but I know definitely for sure Philadelphia does not want to play a playoff game against the Dallas Cowboys, especially a few weeks after playing them during the regular season. This is going to be a great race to the end. And you know what? I look forward to it. It's going to be awesome, man. But last night, Philadelphia pretty much went ahead and said, you know what? We will go ahead and lie down because this one right here, we ain't got no answers for. You know, at the end of the day, San Francisco made sure they cut off any type of lucky situation that would get these guys back into the game. And that's what the good ones do. So with that, let's go ahead and move forward and let's get on to our final topic, which is going to be the Rams back in the playoff hunt with big win over the reeling Browns with the 36-19 victory. And you know, the Browns yesterday, they started off well. Everything looked really good for the Browns moving forward. But then you know what? The reality of the situation came into play. The Browns are more of a mobile offense. They are offense that predicates themselves off the run game. And that run game can get started with their quarterback running little sweeps, getting little draws, things like that, because it opens up the option of either your quarterback's going or your running back's going. Yesterday, the Browns were very, very obvious in their play calling. You got Joe Flacco out there. You know he's just going to pass. He's going to do a lot of play action situations, but you're not going to have him running. And that's one thing that kind of affected the Browns yesterday in the crucial point of the game, in the crunch time of the game, is that they didn't have their quarterback moving out of the pocket, and there was plenty of opportunities to get those extra yards and not make bad throws. But Joe Flacco had the worst fourth quarter ever. And it just was just bad. He threw an interception, he got sacked twice, and he provided a safety. But other than that, he was absolutely just on point. And the Browns, pretty much the point of the game that ended it for the Browns was missing that extra point and going down and being down 19-20. They needed to score right there because they needed to have that momentum, that idea that, we're here, we've tied the game. Now let's go ahead and win the game. With that, they got the opportunity to get the ball back. They got the ball back. But what happened is that the Browns kind of short-circuited, and that's exactly what the issue is. But you can't take anything away from the Rams because they had great play calling yesterday. They had great poise yesterday, and Matt Stafford does look like he's worth all the money because he was able to make the right throws at the right time. Puka Nacua sets a Rams rookie record, and he was able to score a 70-yard touchdown yesterday as well, too, which was absolutely a beautiful route ran by him as well, too. So there's just a lot of things to be excited about if you're a Rams fan because your team is now 6-6. They're back in the playoff mix as well, too. And it's funny because if the Rams were actually playing, say, in the NFC South, they would be the leader of that division. So that just goes to show you once you get away from the top four teams in the conference, you really don't have much here with the NFC. But those top four teams, the top three, can beat whatever top teams you have in the AFC right now. That's how I see this. But you have the Rams on the outside looking in. Green Bay got the good win yesterday, and Green Bay was able to jump over the Rams because what happens is Green Bay was able to beat the Rams earlier this year, so they own the tiebreaker against the Rams. Now the Green Bay is jousting back and forth with Minnesota. As I keep saying, Minnesota is probably the odd man out. So the Rams do have opportunity. They already have a sweep over Seattle, so they have the advantage in that situation. And then you have Tampa Bay and New Orleans, who really have to win their division to actually make the playoffs. So this race is going to be between, in reality, for these last two spots, is going to be Minnesota, Green Bay, the Rams, and Seattle. All these teams, they all are division opponents to each other. The two that are interdivision opponents to each other, the two that are on the outside looking in are division opponents. Seattle and the Rams have already played their games. The Packers and Minnesota will play on New Year's Eve in Minnesota. So that should be good. And that game is going to wind up being a national game as well, too. The game will be on NBC, so that game will mean a whole lot. But the Rams already know. I'm looking at their schedule right now, and the Rams schedule says to me that they can make the playoffs right now. They got Baltimore coming up next week, but that's going to be in Baltimore. That's going to be a tough game, but a lot of people are probably going to overlook the Rams to the point to where it's going to make the Rams more favorable against a vulnerable Ravens team. So we have Washington, who's actually just sucking wind to try to end the season. A 50-50 game with the New Orleans. These will be your final home games of the season for the Rams. Then you fly to New York for pretty much a square game with the Giants. And then you have the final game of the year, which will be tough because San Francisco does not care about resting players and all that good stuff when it comes to the LA Rams. They want to go out there and whoop the Rams. And the game is going to be at Santa Clara. You always want to win the final home game of the season for your fans. So we're going to see how it goes. We're going to see how it shakes out. But the Rams are on the right path right now. This team has won 3 in a row. They find themselves 6-6 back in the mix. A lot of people had discounted the Rams, had the Rams out of this thing. But you know what? It took 2 good divisional wins and then a really big win over a very good opponent in the Browns. So this team is moving in the right direction. And with that, we're going to go ahead and take our first break of the show. And when I get back, we're going to jump into the CFP Final Four reaction. We're also going to get into the in-season tournament knockout rounds. We're going to review both of those games. And then we're going to talk about Ryan Garcia's latest victory, winning in the 8th round in Houston on Saturday night. Where does he go from here? So you guys stay tuned to the Premier Sports Betting Show, the PrimeTime Angles, with the one and only Pop DiBiase, the PrimeTime Capper. And I'll be right back at you.
Good News Only Racing Club, led by the legendary Doug O'Neill, the trainer of 2 Kentucky Derby winners and I'll Have Another and Nyquist. Also trained 2-time Breeders' Cup champ Golden Sense, who are just a part of a long list of thoroughbred champions trained by Doug O'Neill. The Good News Only Racing Club has a young core of horses to look out for in Dennis's Celery, Irish Heatwave, and Notre Dame, just to name a few. Win the day every day with the Good News Only Racing Club, a proud sponsor of the NFL Bet Exchange.
From the East and the West, you've heard others, but now you've tuned into the best. This is a Prime Wave Media production.
Tune into Big Wave Boxing every week with a brand new guest with the one and only Pop DiBiase, the PrimeTime Capper, getting the best boxing stories, best boxing angles, and the truth when it all comes down to the sweet science. Tune into Big Wave Boxing on the Prime Wave Media channel on YouTube.
All right, we are back with the Premier Sports Betting Show, the PrimeTime Angles, with the one and only Pop DiBiase, the PrimeTime Capper. I'm feeling good. I'm feeling great. I hope you're feeling the same. So let's go ahead and jump into the college football playoff, and we are now at reaction moments. Georgia lost Saturday, so that means that they had to literally break rules to let an SEC team in because Alabama was the winner of the game. Let's keep it real. If this was not Alabama, they would have did the right thing, okay? We know that if they would have had to play, say, somebody like who would be – say they played Auburn, and Auburn beat Georgia. You're not going to have Georgia you're not going to do it to where Georgia gets out. You would have figured out a way to put Georgia back in. You know what I mean? That's how stupid and biased this situation is. I told Jeff, I told Mike, I told everybody at the beginning of the year, I got a feeling that the SEC is not going to have the team. They're going to get everybody's going to lose in the SEC this year, okay? And it's not going to be good enough for them to get into the CFP. But I said, can we – it was one of my, bold statements that I said we'll have a CFP finally without the SEC to see exactly why, to see exactly who can win the national championship and have a great game at the same time too. And once again, the powers that be did the wrong thing. You don't have to cater to Alabama. You don't have to cater to Alabama. You don't have to cater to Georgia. You don't have to cater to the SEC. They had a down year. I think really at the end of the day, they were, when you rank Power 5 conferences outside of their 2 elite teams, they were just a bit better than the ACC this year. ACC was awful. That's why Florida State got left out, because they used that as the excuse. They did the same thing to Baylor. They did the same thing to TCU a decade ago. They said the conference wasn't good enough, so we're not going to put you in the Final Four. And your name is not Texas, and your name is not Oklahoma. Texas got in simply because their name is Texas. And Texas is a part of the Big 12, and this is the Big 12 goodbye for Texas. So they want to make sure that they put in the most popular team in the conference to be a part of the Final Four. Then you have Alabama. Alabama is pretty much the owner of the South, okay? Every redneck, hillbilly person that loves football, Alabama's their team. And you know what? Alabama brings the ratings to the show. And a lot of people say, well, Florida State would have got cooked. Florida State had a national title defense. How do you know they were going to get cooked? How do you know all this was going to happen without 3 weeks of preparation? You prepare for 3 weeks, you start figuring out things about the other team. How could you say they could lose? No, they were a big threat to win. That's why. And you didn't want to have this super Cinderella story of Florida State because why? You gave Florida State so much love in the BCS era. Yeah. And when it was BCS, there was 3 times where Florida State had no business being in the national championship game, and they let them in. So you guys have to understand, teams are taking their proverbial licks right now of what has been done for them in the past, okay? And it sucks. It really does. And making a playoff isn't going to make this better. It isn't. What's going to make it better is when you just let 1 and 2 play each other on Monday night for the national title. It's that simple, okay? You don't need a Final Four. You don't need any of that. We know who the best teams in the nation truly are. And you know what? At the end of the day, we got to stop selling everybody going undefeated because that's what's putting all the pressure on these teams. That's why all these teams are falling apart when we get to the final days of the season and we get into bowl games. Everybody want to be in a transfer portal and all this other extra stuff. If you just keep games to where it's like, okay, your most important game is your conference championship. And then from there, we'll reward you with a great bowl game. It's that simple because they're already paying you $15 million as is. So what is the point? You know, writers and the people who have done this who did it for 80 years before you came up with all these brand new nothing ass ideas, they were able to get it right. Because if you put up the 1970 national champion against anybody in the nation that was in the top 10, they would have beat them all. This is how you fix the problem. You schedule better. Stop putting North Alabama on your schedule, Alabama. Stop putting Citadel on your schedule, Alabama. Stop putting Georgia School of the Death, Georgia. The SEC, if you're so great, then you need to start scheduling the best of the best to play you in the first 3 weeks. When you did that with Texas, they beat you. So that's why I'm not impressed with this situation. And it is what it is at the end of the day. It truly is. It truly, truly is. And you know what? That's all we can do. That's all we can see. And you know what? Let's just enjoy some football. It's all entertainment at the end of the day anyway. So with that, that's my 2 cents on that. I'll be talking more about college football bowl games and bets and all that good stuff and where we need to go once we get to that point. But you guys, you know, I'm a little teed off just like everybody else. But at the end of the day, I understand. I've seen way worse in college football, and I totally understand why you have Alabama here. I totally understand why you have Texas here. It's really not about being competitive. It's about ratings. It's about storyline. It's about talking about things. You have to understand they're making a whole big soap opera out of this situation instead of just getting down to the nitty gritty of things. And you can manipulate college sports just like that. It is what it is. That's why, you know, at the end of the day, y'all got to understand college football. If you love it, just enjoy the games, enjoy the systems that they have in place, and you know what? Just have fun. It's just it's a passing time sport, to be honest with you. They never gonna know who the real champion is in college sports. In college football, but I always feel like the conference champion pretty much solidifies who the damn champion truly is of the conference that they was chasing. The bowl game is a reward. This is where we go get a check. So just chill. You know what I mean? So with that, we move forward. Let's go ahead and talk about the in-season tournament knockout rounds. All right. You know what? We got a great situation here with the in-season tournaments and everything like that. A lot of people are excited about the games moving forward. The first game that we do have in the fold for this week is going to be it's a oldie but goodie somewhat. You have the Pacers and the Celtics, and the Pacers and the Celtics at the twilight of Larry Bird's career, he got to play his former team a lot. And it was fun. It was always fun seeing Larry Bird play against the Pacers, his hometown team in all senses of the word. And it's so funny to me that we all know the Indiana Pacers would have did everything possible to bring Larry Bird in if he wasn't held hostage by the Boston Celtics. And it was funny because a lot of people don't know this. Bird loved playing for the Celtics so much. They asked him in about 89, 90, did he want to go to the Pacers, because the Pacers were actually a better team at that point, and, go play with Reggie Miller and Chuck Person and all these guys. And he said, hell no, I'm a Celtic for life. And so you see the loyalty in that situation right there. They don't teach that no more, man. And that's just, something that's not around anymore, because everybody's told, do what you want to do. You know what I mean? So that's how it goes. You feel what I'm saying? So, the Celtics come in here 15-4. They're the best team in the NBA, no doubt about it. You got a Pacers team that's actually playing a little bit above their pay grade right now, but that's good. That's good. It shows improvement. It shows that when you're quiet and you make deals within and you try to build within, your team can be great. When you try to sit up in here and let the whole world know, oh, we're having controversy, we're having this, we're having that, then you know what? You're just nothing but a bunch of crybabies, dude. The Pacers, you know what? They sat up in here. They've had a lot of rosters that just didn't come together, but they've been able to maneuver, and find themselves with a good group. That doesn't mean they're going to do more than this, but they got themselves a good group. Now, they did win their first game of the month. They're one of the highest scoring teams in the NBA as well, too. And you know what? They are number 2 in the Central Division behind the Milwaukee Bucks. So they are in good form. Tyrese Halliburton is one of the best players in the league. And I told you, there's 3 guys that we can hand the keys to: Halliburton, Melo, or Ant Edwards. And the competition is still there right now. And I would probably give it to Ant Edwards because he's winning a lot more games. But Tyrese Halliburton is right behind him. And Tyrese Halliburton, you know what? They all keep talking about, well, Sacramento got rid of him. That wasn't a fit. He would have been burnt out playing in Sacramento, trying to compete back and forth with De'Aaron Fox. If they were that good, they would have been in playoff position that season. They were nowhere near playoff position that year. So, you can't take a rookie year of Tyrese Halliburton and think that it was going to be able to transition to a great era in Sacramento. But this twosome has done well with Halliburton and Turner. And I guess you can throw Buddy Hield in there as the third guy for your big 3. And then, Mathurin is a hell of a rookie. He's a grown-ass man. That's what it's all about. And he's playing great basketball. Actually, he's in his second year, but he's playing great basketball. He's really getting it. He's really getting into his own. A modern-day Andre Iguodala. It took Iguodala some time to really get into his groove, but now you see what's happening. But you got a team that scores a lot of points. They got it looks like 8 guys in double figures right now as well, too. So this works out pretty well. Now you have yourself the Celtics. The Celtics coming to this game red hot. I keep telling y'all, the Celtics they're absolutely in fuego. They're number 2 when it comes to 3-point shots made, and they're number 3 when it comes to rebounds. So those 2 stats right there will put you at the top of the league. It's that simple. You know what I mean? And I'm not even a guy that sells shooting 3-pointers, but when you're able to rebound and hit threes, you're doing the right things out here. And then, you have Tatum, who really does want to look great and win this tournament. If you're not going to, this is a good stepping stone to getting yourself to that NBA title. And we all know that. So I think that he'll be very, very focused in on tomorrow's night's game. You got Jaylen Brown playing great basketball, but the X factor is going to be Porzingis, and we all know this. So pretty much with that, when it comes down to this game, I like the Celtics here. I think the Celtics won't have any stage fright. I think the Pacers will be in here doing too much. So I'm going to go ahead and take the Celtics with the -5.5. We'll see how it goes. We'll see how it shakes out. We move forward from there. All right, so we have ourselves up next, which is going to be the Pelicans and the Kings. This is a very, very good matchup. You have a Kings team coming in here. You have a Kings team coming in here 11-7. You have the Pelicans 11-10. Good wins in the tournament this year. The good wins in the in-season tournament because they had a tough group that they were in. And then also you had -3.5 to the over to -3.5 tonight on for that the Kings are given. And then you have the under 237.5. This game looks really, really. It does. You don't know really what's going to happen, but you know what they would prefer. They would love to see the Lakers and the Kings play, so then they can go ahead and reminisce about when the Lakers and the Kings played 20 years ago, okay, in the playoffs and all that good stuff, and when they were ultimate rivals and all that extra hoopla. But when you really get down to the nitty gritty of the situation, you want the Zion Williamson storyline against the Lakers or the Suns, because Zion Williamson is a guy that they put a big bet on, believe it or not, and they're trying to see if they can get themselves, some type of payment out of it somewhat. You know what I mean? And I know you guys say, what do you mean by that? Cash in on the damn check. You know what I mean? Because Zion Williamson was seen as the next up, the face of the league, all this good stuff. The guy that was going to take the league into the next stratosphere. But it came nowhere near that at the end of the day. So tonight, he has a point to prove. Let's hope so. De'Aaron Fox is a guy that a lot of everybody sleeps on, but De'Aaron Fox is by far, if we really look at it and we really think about it and you really true to yourself, the guy's the best point guard in the NBA, period, point blank. One of the fastest players. The guy plays with very, very high IQ as well, too. And he's really changed the culture in Sacramento. This team now does pull up, and you're expecting them to win. You're not expecting them just to compete. You're expecting this team to win, or you're expecting this team to give it all it got to really try to go ahead and win these games. So, tonight, this game to me is more of a game that you have to kind of just go with the flow a little bit, and you just kind of got to read the room a little bit as well too. And I like the Kings with the minus 150 tonight. I think the Kings will be good enough. And you know what? Them playing at home is a different animal from them playing on the road. So it is what it is at the end of the day. So we move forward. Let's talk about Ryan Garcia scores knockout in return bout. Garcia says title hunt will begin in 2024. Ryan, how many times have you told us that? Like, seriously. But I'm not going to sit up in here and shit on his win Saturday night. I just will say this. Ryan Garcia needs to grow up. It's that simple. You know what I mean? You don't keep talking to grown-ups and grown folks like a baby or some entitled person. Sorry. Tough titty that people walked out of the ring. But that's boxing. Boxing's a tough sport. Be tough. You know what you signed up for. This is the loneliest sport in the world at the end of the day. You ain't the first person that everybody walked away from after you lost the fight. And then they still walked back to you and presented you with this fight. But all in all, let's talk about the fight. Let's talk about where Ryan stands at. Ryan had a great fight. He was able to do a lot of new things in the fight as well, too. Him and Derrick James seem to be a good fit with each other as well, because Derrick James just did what other coaches won't do. He just told him what the real was going on in rounds. You know what I mean? And he seemed to listen to that stuff. So, everything works out pretty well. But they did bring him a certified opponent, a guy who is not a 140 fighter, a guy who's just really tough, but he's going to be made to order. He's going to come in, he's going to get punched a lot, and then he's eventually going to drop. That's exactly what happened in this fight. Ryan did exactly what you're supposed to do when you're in position, when you're in his position. This was a tune-up. This was a stay busy. This was a return. Whatever it was, he had to knock the guy out. So everybody could say, you know what? Ryan Garcia still got it. Ryan Garcia still excites me. I can't wait to see the next Ryan Garcia fight. And that's exactly what Ryan Garcia is doing. The whole back and forth with Golden Boy and talking and calling out Oscar and calling out Bernard, all of it's a part of the show. That's how Golden Boy operates. It's a reality show in a sense of a promotion. And you see how Oscar talks every time a camera's on him. It's almost like they gave the guy a script. So you have to understand they're selling a fight. That's the only way that they can sell this fight. And you know what? They sold it very well because the start of the week, they had these guys mad at each other. Ryan's coming out saying a whole bunch of shit. And, the rest of the world sitting up in here speculating and putting in their 2 cents. Then Saturday night, you see everybody hugging each other. Why? Because it was to sell the fight. And in Houston, you got to be a little controversial sometimes. And that was what brought the people to the arena at the door. So, a lot of people, they weren't selling tickets right. They weren't doing this right. At the end of the day, that doesn't concern you. Okay? What concerns you is watching the fight, making a good judgment of the fight, and moving on. That's what it's all about at the end of the day. A lot of people get their panties all in a bunch because they have these expectations of these fighters, and you should not have expectations but hoping that this fighter wins the fight or he doesn't get killed in the fight. You know what I mean? Because it's boxing. This sounds crazy, but all the fights are 50-50. There could be a night where you come in there and you know what, you got a stomach ache, but you got to get that check, and you get parked in the 5th round. It happens. But all in all, congratulations to Ryan Garcia. Hopefully there will be some real championship fights for him this year, not him winning the WBA NASCAR belt or the national the NABF or the USA certified WBA. Those aren't world titles, okay? So hopefully we can get the Rolly pay-per-view at some point this year, but I think we got to think a little bit more about a tune-up before you get to that Rolly situation. And I think that fighting Adrian Broner is the answer for Ryan Garcia. He needs somebody who can actually be a good dance partner for him and actually be somebody who can help him sell the fight and not have him always chastising the promoters that he begged to be a part of their promotion when he was a little small fry. So, let's not forget history, buddy. So it is what it is at the end of the day. I'm not defending Golden Boy or anything like that, but at the end of the day, you got to show a little bit of loyalty. Even if there's some things that guys did a little messed up, you got to show a little bit of, you got to show that you actually do appreciate the fact that they gave you the opportunity to be this person. So with that, that's going to be a wrap on our boxing talk today. We should have more to talk about this week as it's Devin Haney week this week as well. So with that, we're going to be right back with Talking Tickets. So you guys stay tuned. This is the Premier Sports Betting Show, the PrimeTime Angles with the one and only Pop DiBiase, the PrimeTime Capital.
Now you and your friends can compete in the sport of kings and win big with Stable Duel. Get the app, pick your horses, and get in on the thrill of horse racing. With daily games competing against other players. Bring home the glory and the cash, and move up the annual leaderboard while you leave your competition in the dust. Get in the game with Stable Duel. Play, race, win.
Good News Only Racing Club, led by the legendary Doug O'Neill, the trainer of 2 Kentucky Derby winners and I'll Have Another and Nyquist. Also trained 2-time Breeders' Cup champ Golden Sense, who are just a part of a long list of thoroughbred champions trained by Doug O'Neill. The Good News Only Racing Club has a young core of horses to look out for in Dennis's Celery, Irish Heatwave, and Notre Dame, just to name a few. Win the day every day with the Good News Only Racing Club, a proud sponsor of the NFL Bet Exchange.
All right, we are back with the Premier Sports Betting Show, the PrimeTime Angles with the one and only Pop DiBiase, the PrimeTime Capper. So let's go ahead and jump into it, talking tickets, and we have ourselves a very, 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 very good situation here with the CFB Super. It's the CBB Super High Five. Sorry about that, but it's about college basketball today. It's a 30-1 ticket, minus 14.5 on ECU. They playing against Maryland Eastern Shore. Then you also have the plus 12.5 on Iowa. You have the plus 25 Arkansas State as well, too. And then you have the minus 11 Arkansas. And then you also have the dog of the day, San Jose State, the Spartans, plus 130. All right, so let's jump into some pro sports. And up first is the NBA, and we have the in-season tournament double. Tourney double is going to be the 5.5 to the Celtics, and then it's going to be the Kings minus 150. This is going to be a 3-1 ticket, so we'll see how it goes. We'll see how it shakes out. We move forward from there. All right, we have ourselves the Monday Night Football bets, and with the Monday Night Football bets, tonight, I'm taking the Bengals with the plus 10. I think that this is going to be a oversight by most bettors. I think that the Bengals will figure out a way to get their guys going in this game, to get them to, play a good game. You know what I mean? Because the Jaguars do overlook smaller competition in a sense. And let's face it, the Bengals defense didn't really lose much. And a lot of those guys are coming back, and they have this idea that they can still make the playoffs. So, you know what? I'm not counting the Bengals out. I think they're going to make this their best effort of the season going into a very important game. So they may not win, but they're not going to get blown out either. So I'm going to take the plus 10 on the Bengals tonight. Then we have the under 19.5 first half, plus 100. I think that this is going to be a low-scoring game, to be honest with you, as you guys can see from the alternate line. And I think that the Jaguars start off hot. You know what I mean? I think they get a field goal, touchdown, something like that, and they will be in the lead when it comes to the fourth quarter. Now, hopefully they're up 3 or more points. So we'll see how it goes. We'll see how it shakes out, but that's where we're going with that one in the first quarter. And then we're going to go with the big boy bet, the under 32.5 alternate line. So I'm hoping this game finishes up 17-10 or 17-13 or 13-10 or possibly 6-0, whatever. But plus 245, that's a nice number right there. We'll see how it goes. We'll see how it shakes out. But with that, that's going to be a wrap on the premier sports betting show, the PrimeTime Angles, with the one and only Pop DiBiase, the PrimeTime Capper. And as I always say, bet with your head, not with your heart. The movement is moving. And you know what? It's going to be a great week this week. So you guys make sure you're tuning in. Make sure you're getting the best bets in the industry. And you know what? Just keep getting some great info as well, too. So at the end of the day, let's do what I always say. Let's keep the movement moving, but let's get the movement even bigger. You know what I mean? And, it is what it is at the end of the day. I really do appreciate you guys tuning in and everything like that. But you can do me the greatest favor and go ahead and make sure you retweet and you share this show once you get done watching this show. So with that, be ready for some clips going up on YouTube in the next hour or so. And we move from there. But as I always say, man, you know what I say. So pretty much with that, it's your host, the one and only Pop DiBiase, the PrimeTime Capper. I'll be back at you tomorrow. Double takes tomorrow. We got the NFL Bet Exchange, and then we do have the PrimeTime Angles coming up after that about 1 o'clock. So with that, thank you so much. And as I always like to say, when it comes to the very end, that, you can bet with your head, not with your heart. Movement is moving, and I am gone.
From the East and the West, you've heard others, but now you've tuned into the best. This is a Prime Wave Media production.